name's Sarah and I'm the festival director for Tramlines Music Festival, which happens once a year in Sheffield City Centre. And I've been doing my job for 6 years, well, since the beginning of Tramlines, basically.
Hi there, my name's James. I'm a director of Locus Independence, and we produce Now Then magazine, among other things. And I've been doing that for coming on 10 years. Feels like an eternity.
Hello, my name's Joe. I'm director of a writing organisation. It's a social enterprise called Writing Yorkshire. So we've got kind of like 5 young writers groups, a few different adult writers groups, and do kind of community projects. I'm also project director of something called Word Life, which is again a literature organisation. We produce events, do kind of digital literature projects.
Hello, my name is Ayşe Gülbalkose. Just call me Ayşe if I think it's shorter. I'm an artist, performer, chemical engineer, and photographer. I mostly work with bands and in my photography. I do live band photography and studio shots for bands, and very grainy, dark cityscape. I also do live performance art with improvised jazz musicians. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Dodd and I work for Yorkshire Art Space, which is artist studio provision. So we have 3 buildings where artists, craftspeople, designers have their workshops, and I run the Yorkshire Art Space programme, so that's kind of activities in where the public can engage with art and artists, activities in schools or the community.
Great, thank you. Okay, so open floor. Does anybody have any questions for our panellists?
Hi, I'd like to ask all the panellists what kind of experience you had when you were younger as a young person to get you to where you are today, what kind of experience you would recommend young people to get.
Do you mean what experience I had before I kind of started this job? Not that much actually, and in comparison to what I see on job applications that come in now, it's like, oh my God, I would never be able to get a job now based on what I had when I started. I did do an art degree, so I did fine art in Falmouth, and after that, kind of for a year or so, I tried to continue with studio practice, and then realised I didn't have any money, so I started really temping agency work, and then realised I was working all the time, but it wasn't a job that I wanted to do. So at that point I kind of got temporary work at the university, and then I applied for the job at Yorkshire Art Space, and at that time it was a part-time education and outreach officer, and I was just very lucky. Somebody at the university said that they'd heard about this organisation and that it was the kind of time of year when organisations may have new funding in, new financial year, and maybe I should just go down there and see if they've got anything going, and they just happened to have, not right at that moment, but they said they would be advertising posts in the next month or so and to look out for it and so on. Maybe that being proactive in the first instance and kind of making contact with them was a good sign for them. Maybe that's perhaps what, because they did interview other people. And I think feedback from the time was that because I've worked at the university and worked in the film school and so on, and had a bit of contact with students and whatever, but it wasn't really that I was compared to applications that we get in today, where young people have volunteered in places, and I think there's probably comparatively little.
Hello, this is Ayşe. Would that be better if I actually stand up? I can't really see your faces, and would you like to see my face? Okay, it's a bit awkward for the camera. Sorry, but okay. Is it like what sort of experience? What do you mean exactly?
So kind of, what kind of led you to where you got to today? What kind of path into
It's life hit me. This is what happened. So in my I'm a chemical engineer. I have a chemical engineering degree, and I have a master's degree in business and management. And I worked as a chemical engineer at the factories, at a textile factory, approximately 7 years when I was in Turkey. Then I decided that I really want to engage with people, and I really want to find who I am, because the life just leaded me there. My family and school, everybody thought that I would be great in mathematics and engineering. Then there I was. So I decided to move into UK, got married, become a circus performer. I've done all these statutory jobs. I still do sometimes fire jobs and stilts walking. It pays well because I'm good. and I liked painting. And I managed to have a little studio, and I was spending a lot of time in my spare time when my husband, my ex-husband, wasn't actually looking around and trying to find me, where is she? So, approximately 2 weeks, I just let myself into my room and just constantly painting, didn't go out, didn't do anything, I just wanted to paint, this desire just coming bursting out of me, just asking me to just come on, you can do it. And I just, okay, I'll obey the words in your head, it's really important. So I was painting, I figured out that I had like a bunch of paintings, so I decided to have an exhibition. After the exhibition, I was like, oh, I quite like it. But what else I like to do? I was like, oh, I quite like photography, and I've never held a camera in my hand before. Not like okay, I did when I was like 8, 10, but not actually knowing what I was doing with it. So I got a camera, I started playing around with it because it was really interesting to capture the dark side of things, because we all have a little darkness inside. So I thought that it would be nice to get them out, and here I am. I'm a performer, and I work as an artist and photographer. Thank you.
So it was probably university for me, really. So I was at Sheffield University, and kind of in about the beginning of my second year, I started just a night with 2 friends, people that I'd met in kind of first year who had an interest in kind of poetry and writing. And when I came to Sheffield at that time, so I was at uni in 2005 to 2008. So it was about 2006, 7. In terms of poetry and literature, there was very little going on in Sheffield, really. There wasn't, there was off the shelf, and that was pretty much it. There was no regular poetry nights, there wasn't that many poetry organisations, there wasn't kind of a night that I wanted to go to as a writer, trying to write and develop my own work and meet like-minded people. So with a couple of friends, we just kind of decided just to start our own night, really. We had no experience of doing it when we started at all, we never put a night on. So we just kind of worked it out, hired the main lounge at the Sheffield Uni one venue, and just started up from there, from scratch, really. And the first one went really well. We got about kind of 180 people in, sold out. It was like the beginning of Facebook when we did it, so it was a ridiculously effective kind of marketing tool. At that point, it was still just for uni students. And everything kind of built from there, really. I kind of really enjoyed it. And increasingly, my degree in university became slightly irrelevant to what I wanted to do. Even though I was studying English and history, but because I was doing a dual degree, I couldn't elect to take any of the creative modules or things like that. So I just, it's kind of, I guess, it's DIY culture. It's learn by doing, essentially. So just a couple of mates started this night. Met Opus guys, which is James, which is an arts collective, and then James started Now Then magazine when I was in my 3rd year. So I started working on Now Then magazine when I was in my 3rd year at uni. Did a little bit of volunteering to get kind of facilitation experience, like working with young people. And then I was kind of lucky enough that one of the organisations I was volunteering with, which is Right Yorkshire, which I'm now director of. When I started off, I just started volunteering. I gave my first ever paid work And when I graduated, I kind of realised I wanted to do this more than anything else. It's more fun than doing anything else. So I kind of held down a couple of part-time jobs, bars, temped at H&B, that kind of thing. Just kept doing creative stuff on the side and slowly built that up. As a kind of self-employed kind of artist, facilitator, doing bits and pieces of projects. And it's only really the last kind of 2 years that I've kind of been able to do it kind of full-time, not have a kind of sidebar job or something else on the side. So so I kind of did that for a while, then I became arts events manager at the Riverside pub in Sheffield, so I ran that for a year. And then I went from that to an arts organisation in Doncaster, which was kind of like an arts participation officer in Doncaster, so trying to get people to engage in different art forms from kind of like the old pit towns and villages around Donny, where there's kind of no arts infrastructure at all. So I did that for a year, and kind of only last month have I become director of Writing Yorkshire, so I just started this job. But the whole time I was doing that, I also had my own self-employed kind of wildlife stuff, doing quite regular events, started working for literature festivals, and I mean that all just kind of snowballed really, just by networking, talking to everyone you meet, going to events like this, meeting people, pitching ideas to people, and it all kind of just kind of gradually increased over time.
Joe was genuinely an awful barman as well, so it's quite fortunate that worked out for him. So I guess almost a similar story really, in the sense that I was at university and I was thinking about what was important really, and how I can contribute really. And I guess that's really, for me, that's the fundamental question, is looking at the skills that you have, looking at the dreams that you have, and working out how you can contribute. So I thought about that for a long time at university, and I worked some awful jobs in a variety of different awful places. The highlights were shoveling garlic powder from one bin into another bin for McCormick's Spice Factory, don't recommend it. I also worked for HBOS Insurance, they're bad people. I also worked in a call centre where I had to sell accidental death insurance. And these sorts of experiences, I think, really galvanised me to work in the arts and work in the creative sector. But as I said, I do think it's genuinely, it's really actually about contributing and looking at your life vocationally and being honest about the skills that you have and the skills that you don't have. So I moved to Sheffield, I found some friends, I had other friends of course, but I found some new friends. We were talking about how important it was, how important creative information was. We were talking about what changes a person's mindset, how do they develop. And the answers that we were all coming back with were a great song lyric, a great poem, a wonderful live performance, an article that changed the way you looked at a subject. These were the things that we felt were important. So we wanted to try and create something that had mechanisms that could fulfill those objectives. So we started off doing events, music events, and the idea at the time was to do kind of multi-genre stuff. So we would try to encourage people from different musical backgrounds to enjoy different types of music, and we felt that was a good way of widening perceptions. It's very difficult to run an event when you only have a small number of friends. So that was a learning curve for us really, and we kind of really realised within the first a few weeks really that you had to be out there posting. It was the days of fly posting, which are long since gone, where you walk out at 9 PM and cover a street in posters. And then they'd be down 10 minutes later. So you follow the street ambassadors around Division Street putting up posters, and they tear them down and put them back up again. And hopefully someone will come to your event. And then I guess really I started work at the big issue in the north, which is down by the cathedral. If any of you fancy a life-changing experience, go and spend a few hours in the Arch Project. It's really interesting, and I don't mean that in a a patronising way, I mean it in a life-changing kind of way. It's interesting to see people who really do represent the underclass in our society. And I worked there for a year or two, dealing with some of those problems, and that really gave me a kind of a socialist kind of bent to what I wanted to do, because I felt like not only were there people without a voice, but there were people who were completely unaware of even being able to have a voice. So that became quite important. And then the big question is how do you make money out of your vocation? How do you make money out of your dream? How do you pay yourself? How do you pay the people who work with you? And that is a problem I'm still trying to solve. But in short, it comes back to the same root recipe, which is looking at the skills that you have, looking at the skills that you don't have, and finding people who you can work with and share that responsibility. Thank you.
Hi, I think probably similar to these guys next to me. I came here for university. I chose a degree that has absolutely nothing to do with what I do now. I did sociology. But alongside, when I came to university, I started working in this industry. I started working for a nightclub behind the bar, which I did for 4 years, but then kind of got involved with some of the nights that took part at the club as well, and kind of got involved in some of the promotion side of it. I then moved on from the nightclub to then working in another bar, which I did for 6 years. Which I then ran, which is a music venue. I was fortunate enough that actually the job that I'm in now, the music festival, actually began from that bar. So there was a group of people that kind of got together and decided to put on the music festival. So I was there kind of from the start. I did quit my job around that time and went to South America for a bit because I'd had enough. But then I came back and the music festival sounded really interesting and great, and when I was young I always said that all I wanted to do for a job was put on parties, so it kind of seemed like if I could have that as a job it would be great. But because I quit, I couldn't just walk in and say I want to run this. So I kind of got involved in all different roles, and whatever role came up, some of it was really boring and really weird. I worked in the commercial team to start with, so when we got sponsorship in, I would have to kind of find out a way of making the sponsors seem interesting to the audience. So the first people we worked with was Eon Energy, and I was like, okay, Eon Energy, music, how do I make that? Which, I didn't do very well. It wasn't that interesting in the end, but I just kind of moved from job to job. So 1 year I was doing that, 1 year I was managing all of the different promoters that booked all the artists and everything in the city. 1 year I was managing volunteers. So I kind of just worked on it from the outset, and then Dave, who was then the festival director, just kind of pushed him out and then gave himself that job because he was getting old. So I've been the festival director now for like the last 3 years. And none of it really is because I have any, I don't really know what qualifications you would need to be a festival director, or if there are any. I think it's basically just from spending a lot of time learning every aspect of the business and kind of being, able and willing to do every part of it. So if that's, going out and following security fly posting, which actually is back at the moment, it seems you can fly post at the moment. You can't, don't do it, but it does seem to be bad. But just kind of being prepared to kind of work from the ground up. And then, I saw one of the questions, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but it's like, what is your day-to-day job? I think, oh God, I don't know what I do anymore, really. No, I still work, but I don't really have any particular projects of my own. Like, a lot of it is kind of managing other people, but because I've done all of the jobs along the way, I suppose. So I think the best way to get experience is by doing something, and we're always going to make mistakes along the way. Like, I've made countless mistakes, but that's how you learn. You have to learn from your mistakes, and getting as much experience under your belt, I think, is just the only way to succeed. And I don't think you know, obviously there are certain jobs, you know, being a doctor, you require a certain level of qualifications and learning, but, you know, in this industry, a lot of it is kind of, you know, putting yourself out there, really, I think.
Just in relation to what a few of you said about degrees, I guess to put it in an easy way, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not very important at all and 10 being really important, how important do you think it is to have a degree?
I would say 1. Wait, is 1 important or 10 important? Sorry, which
What's that?
whichever is the least. I mean,
10's important, 1's not very important.
1 for like, you know, for my company and like the people that I work with, quite a few people don't have degrees. A lot of people came straight from school and went straight into their work. I think for me, if I hadn't come to university, I don't think I'd be the person I am now, but I don't think that's because of the degree I chose. I think it was moving away from home, meeting people that I would never have met before, you know, learning different things of different people. So I don't think it's, you know, I loved going to university, and I think without going to university I wouldn't be where I am, but none of it was to do with my degree. It was all to do with everything that I did outside of my degree.
I would dodge that question, actually, and I'll be open about dodging it, because I think it's really, really important to get good and develop expertise at things that you enjoy and that you are good at. And getting a degree is one way of doing that, and if that works out for you, then great. But if the degree isn't allowing you to get really good at the stuff that you enjoy and that you think is important, then maybe it's not the right way.
I think the degree in itself as a qualification wasn't not really useful. I mean, in the sense that, you know, when I applied for this job, you know, it was almost irrelevant really what degree I had. It was just the experience that I had, the kind of, and the contacts and networks that you were part of that kind of made you able to kind of step up, I guess. But I guess for me though, having that time to essentially kind of, as in just explore and do things, and you have a degree of income that's coming in, even though it's quite small, but it allowed me to kind of experiment, put on nights, kind of volunteer. So I think in that sense it was quite important, because I don't think I necessarily would have kind of followed the path that I had done if I didn't have kind of 3 years, especially as a kind of a playground of kind of, you know, going out, meeting people, trying new things. And I think if I hadn't done that, I think it would have been a lot harder if I had to kind of constantly find an income and having to have worked full time to then develop the same experience that I did. I think, yeah, so yes and no really. I think the qualification itself, no, but the act of kind of then learning by doing while I was studying, having that safety net of income, and, you know, I did English and history at uni, so there was some crossover, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, all of them, really. I think they go hand in hand or side by side. If you know what you want to do in life, if you feel it in you, then go for it. And then get education with it. But it's not get the education for the sake of getting the qualification. I think you just want to learn, you want to know more about your interests and why you're doing it is the most important question, I think. Then, if you want to be a doctor, go and have a degree, because you will want to work in the hospitals, and they will ask for it. They will ask for the qualification. But if you want to be an artist, I can just talk about myself. There are other ways to learn it. There are internet, there are people, chats, go and meet with people. But on the other hand, school gives the flexibility to play around and meet a bunch of new people, and you can experiment about who you are by meeting with these people. So yeah, they're both, as long as you know what you want, then it's all good. If you don't know what you want, have more experience in life until you know what you want. Thank you.
It seems to be a sliding scale, starting at 1. But, I mean, I don't know whether I'd give it a 10, but doing a fine art degree was brilliant. It was 3 years of just painting or doing whatever in a studio. And, I feel quite fortunate because it was so long ago that you didn't have to pay fees then. I did do still have a small student loan, which is still unpaid. But, I know that is minute now in comparison to what level of debt you would come out with if you did a degree. So I don't know whether I would make that decision again, but nevertheless, sort of 3 years of just being able to do art was fantastic. And what was also lacking on my degree was any kind of continued professional development modules or anything like that about what you might do after you leave the degree. It was like it was its own end. It was like, right, this paint and that's all you do. And then there's a colleague of mine at Yorkshire Arts Space who now sort of teaches that, or goes in to teach those things and those modules on degree courses. So there's a lot more awareness of helping the students that they have on those courses think beyond the time that they're there. But and I value that time that I had, but it doesn't mean that that's the only way that you can sort of do that. It is a way, and it was 3 years, and like you say, it's time when you have a grant or whether you've got some degree of freedom and kind of flexibility.
I guess in my mind, the arts, their role in society is to essentially communicate ideas between different people, different organisations. And one of the most difficult things I think can be is to actually engage people with the work that you're doing. Because quite often, if it's outside of their comfort zone, people don't venture out. They're a bit, hesitant, or if they just don't know that things are going on. And what I wanted to ask was, how much engagement do you think that you have with society, with the public? What does your organisation do to try and engage them?
I think for me it's kind of it's fundamental to everything that I try and do in a way, is thinking about audience and thinking about how people are going to relate and kind of engage with what you're doing. I mean, obviously I work kind of mostly in kind of poetry and literature, which you could probably say the majority of people see as some sort of kind of crash for the mentally ill. But I mean, I love poetry. I mean, I think that part of my job is trying to subvert essentially an expectation that it's irrelevant and that it's elitist. And a lot of the projects we do are kind of designed around kind of changing those notions, essentially. So, and I think the thing about writing, there's so many different quotes about writing being kind of the universal art of mankind. It's the fundamental stepping stone in kind of any kind of creative act. So for me, it's really important in terms of, I guess, how we try and get people to engage. You try lots of different things. You try different marketing techniques and how you put it online. I do a lot of kind of digital work and kind of trying to put the work on YouTube, posting it, and trying to have different formats of websites that people might stumble across and might kind of change their opinion of kind of the work they do. For me, some of the work I like most and some of the poets and artists that kind of program the most, the ones that kind of feel or have that resonance. And I guess whenever I organise a night, I think especially with poetry and things, quite often poetry nights tend to be for poets, and whenever I try and run a night, I always think if it's someone walking in for the first time and this is their first ever experience of what you're doing, is it going to put them off, or is it going to encourage them to kind of seek out and enjoy the art form and take it further? And so that's always how I try and program an event, and that affects the way I talk to an audience, affects the way I host it, affects the way you kind of dress the space. And I think it's trying to be meaningful, it's trying to be honest. And I mean, my previous job to this, I worked in a project in Doncaster that was entirely based around that, going into a place with no kind of arts infrastructure and trying to program and market differently. So there was a lot of things that we found out that kind of traditional postering and flyering doesn't work essentially in these locations, nearly as well, because it doesn't matter who you're booking if they read a kind of a brief bio or description, even with a snazzy flyer, that it's not going to pique their interest. You know, their experience from school and upbringing is so negative of the arts. They see it as something for children, or they see it as something that's irrelevant to their lives. They've got much, deeper other problems that they need to worry about. So, we could basically find kind of advocates in the community literally going into businesses, knocking on doors, trying to find people who then would bring their friends and family and kind of go back to kind of that type of networking and marketing. And so we spent a lot of time building relationships, essentially. That was almost more than programming and work in the arts, was going out, talking and meeting people. And that's still fundamentally kind of how I've always worked in Sheffield as well. It's kind of, you're kind of the biggest advocate for kind of what you do. It's kind of, you have to, if you're passionate about it, you believe, you have to believe in it. People will see your own belief in what you're doing in your own work, and hopefully they'll respond to that. If you think it's important, you'll attract people to you because they'll recognise that you're doing it for the right reasons and you have faith in your own work. And I think I've probably gone off a tangent there, but that was that right? Does that kind of answer it? Is that okay? Yeah.
I think that in, my job at Yorkshire Arts Space has always been about sort of engaging, or because I started as education and outreach officer, and it was about placing artists in schools and so on, workshops in libraries and community centres. But as a kind of that role has developed and the job has changed, well, it's not changed significantly, but I think I've always come to it in a way that it's about having, it's an idea of that art has a kind of use value within society, and that art and artists kind of are, or should be, or are able to contribute and comment on. They can have a bit of an outside perspective. It's almost like as an artist you can be a bit of a viewer and commenter, but then you can also be quite engaged in and be politically, driven, or make work that is trying to bring about change. There's a whole spectrum of kind of responses that, but I think what's important to me is that it's that motivation, really. But I'm also interested in that it's kind of, I remember one artist saying to me once that I was working with on a project, they said that they're artists in the world and not just artists in the art world.
So we just want groups of 6 working with the networkers, and then it's going to be a bit of speed dating, so just sit yourself around one of the people and put their hands up, and then I'm going to just call every 5 minutes for everyone to move, and it's just your opportunity to ask questions directly to them, so you're not having to put your hand up in front of everybody else, and the panellists can join as well. So if we just introduce yourselves, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Kieran. I'm the operations manager for Creative Arts Learning Space, and we provide studio space and event space for artists and other creatives.
Hi, I'm Tara, and I'm a freelance dance-based artist, and I work a lot in South Yorkshire and Leeds, and I teach, I dance, I choreograph, and I kind of work on my own really, not with anyone else or with any other organisation, so yeah.
Hi, I'm Julie. I'm based here at Montgomery, and I handle our programming and marketing, and so a lot of the, like we mentioned, this sort of space here helps us curate this space. So we have performance and exhibition space, rehearsal, meeting space all over the building. It's quite a massive space. We also have a studio theatre downstairs that I program and handle as well.
Hi, I'm Sean. I run the Old Con Cab comedy franchise. We put on comedy events here in Sheffield and in Leeds and at larger festivals and things like that.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm another director of Opus with James. I'm also a director of Peace in the Park Festival. I run a creative space in Neaps End where we rent out studios. I'm the coordinator for Sheffield Mental Health Week, and I do some freelance event management and photography.
See, gosh. Okay, right, so if we gather sort of 6-ish people around each of our networkers and then spend 5 minutes asking questions and then we'll move on.
My own stuff, I've been trained as a singer, as a child, so it's very technical. Maybe I can just give a little bit of a thing of it's oriental, so something like this is called peace. I would say, As-salam, 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 as-salam. So it's just very simple, stuff, and very a cappella, so very concentrated. My father trained us how to do that, and then just being in bands in Rafiki Jazz in Sheffield. So, and it's just been an incredible journey. But I had to make a decision. The decision was it's either IT or the music. So I was head of, it was a brilliant opportunity that I had, head of IT for Mansip. And I worked there for 3 months, and then I had a further contract, and then it was music, IT, which one? Because you've got to give yourself 100% for whatever you're going to do. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to risk it. So if you don't risk it, I'd be like 50 years old, I'm kind of getting there, and I'd regret it. So I think I made the best decision to actually follow. It's a passion, more than a dream. I think when you've got a passion for something, you'll actually be down there, and you'll still pursue it because of the passion that you have in your heart. So so that's literally who and what I am. And I could have shared more, but I think we're in a bit of a rush, right?
I just wanted to let you all know about a new sort of initiative that's taking off in Sheffield called the Creative Guild. So there are a load of small and mid-scale operations and freelancers working in Sheffield, and over the last year and a half we've been holding meetings that some of you may have even been part of called What's Next, looking at how we can bring those groups together and give them a voice. And so we have launched, and we submitted a bid to the Arts Council. We've got funding from the Arts Council and from both universities and from our local council to support this initiative. So we're actually right now recruiting board members. It's going to be a cooperative board, and our applications for the board are open to any and all of you. The only requirement is that you have creative connections in the Sheffield City region. So you are all welcome to apply. And that application closes the 27th of November, and the guild will be open for membership hopefully in June. But the whole point of that is to really give us a voice as individuals and small and mid-scale organizations. And we will be connected. The very setup of the organization is that it will be connected to the Culture Consortium, which is a group of some of the larger cultural organizations in Sheffield, some of the Arts Council funded organizations and the like. So this is a really exciting opportunity in Sheffield for us to sort of come together, to have a voice, to collaborate, and we would really love for you all to be a part of it. Consider applying to be the board. The best, easiest way I can direct you to it is to send you to the Culture Consortium's website, which is sheffieldculture.org.uk. .co.uk. Shoot, do you remember? .co.uk, sheffieldculture.co.uk. In their news section, they'll have a blurb all about the guild and how you can apply to be a board member. Please do check it out. It's meant to be totally inclusive.
Okay, so I'm going to just leave you now to network and chat, and you really use this opportunity. Come and sign up to the offers and fill out our evaluation forms, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thanks.